right, this next part of the lesson is going to be pretty easy. It's actually the easy part of the whole lesson. So what we're going to do now is talk about permutations. I already explained the fact that permutations are when order matters. So if I have a ranking of any kind, PG, PG-13, R-rated movies have a ranking, and order matters. So depending on how old you are, you can watch certain movies. If you wanted to place first place, second in a race, first, second, third, something like that. What's the biggest fish you caught? What's the smallest fish you caught? There's an order to it, and order matters. That would be a permutation. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. The equation itself looks pretty nasty. You're going to take n factorial, do n minus the rate by which you want to move. Don't worry about any of that. What we're going to do is put the larger number first and the smaller number second into our permutation. We already did some math on this in the previous example, so we can give that the miss. All right. I'm going to have you guys use the link on the Google Classroom to calculator.net for the permutation and combination calculator. You're going to put n, the total amount of numbers, in the top box. This will be your larger number. And then a subset. So if there was 14 people and you wanted to take 7 of them for president, vice president, secretary, a bunch of different positions, then you would say 14 permutation 7, and it would do the math. Conveniently, it also does the math on combinations. And what you'll find is there's a lot more permutations than there is combinations for all the math that we're going to do. And in some cases, the combination might even be 1. So we'll figure that out here in just a second. All right, let's go ahead and move on. So what we're going to do first is find the number of orders in which all 8 runners can finish. And what we're saying here is how can these 8 people finish first, second, third, fourth, fifth? So Timmy could be in first, Timmy could be in third, Timmy could be in fifth, Timmy could be in 8th place, and John could finish in second or in fourth or in sixth. And we could find out how many different ways 8 people running in a race could finish the race. So this would be a real simple task. What we're looking at doing here is, let me grab my handy dandy marker. We're doing 8 people and 8 places. Now, typically, we might only place first, second, and third, which would mean you'd have 8 people and 3 places. We'll get into that in just a second. But for now, we're doing 8 to 8. So this would be 8 permutation 8. We go over to our handy dandy website and we plug in 8 permutation 8. So we put the larger number first, which happens to be 8. We put the second largest number next, which happens to be 8 again. And once we plug in those two 8s, we hit calculate, and it throws a number at us of 4320, which we actually figured out earlier. 8 factorial is really going to be the answer. If we do the math down here for a combination, which we haven't covered yet, but we find out that there's only one way that all 8 of them can finish the race, and that would be if all 8 of them finish the race. That would be in a combination. Right now, we're saying order matters. So there's a lot of different ways when order matters, but there's only one way when order doesn't matter. All right, so keep that in mind. It's just going to be a matter of, does order matter? That's funny. Does order matter, or does order not matter? So on your quiz, you'll have to decide between the two and then do your permutation versus your combination to get the right answer. The number of ways 8 runners can finish first, second, and third means I have 8 runners, that's going to be n, and the rate which with they're selected is first, second, or third. So that's going to be your n, and n is going to be 8, r is your rate, is going to be 3. So I have 8, 6, 8, 7, 6. There are 3 places. There aren't going to be more after that. And this would be your permutation. Okay, so if we go over to our handy dandy calculator and we plug that fun in, we put in our 8, we put in our 3, and we end up with 336. If we were doing a combination, it would be 56. All right. So once again, permutation is when order matters. How many people you have is going to be equal to n, and the rate which with you're selecting them is going to be your rate. That's going to be r. All right. Go team.